Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. A number of people said to me about the awards and the role that I played as, I guess you call it Master of Ceremonies. And people said, why did you do that? And I said, we couldn't afford to pay one. So that was the start there. I was going to do something probably a little bit personal to start today. And I said to the girls, or said to Joanna anyway, when I arrived here, I'm going to just mention the fact that I have had an experience with this hospital. It was sort of more over there than it was here. And I thought I might share it with you. It'll just help me link into some of the things that I'm going to touch on today, which are things around diversity. So it's only extending part of the conversation that we've had already. But a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. And through the early part of it, they tell you what you're not going to be able to do. And what they started off saying, and if I went to the end of the story, I'd have to say that my oncologist said to me that you're the most belligerent prick I've ever dealt with. Excuse the descriptors there, but if anybody said to me, you won't be able to do, I sort of sat there and looked at them and said, yes, I will. And one of the things that they said was that I wouldn't be able to eat and have difficulty swallowing and all of those things. And so they insisted on putting a peg, I think it was called, into my stomach so that I could feed that way. And as I said, I made up my mind that I would not use this thing, and I said I wouldn't clean it, I wouldn't flush it, I wouldn't do anything like that, that whoever was treating me on the day that I was having radiation or whatever, they would have to do that, and it was just my barrier to being involved. But I came here to get it put in, and that was on a Monday, the 22nd of June 2010. And I think it sort of happened about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and 6 o'clock that night I collapsed. And memories. I was taken back into hospital anyway. And I was there for the next, I think, 10, 15 days. And I carried on with my belligerence, I have to say. So when they said I wouldn't be able to do my radiation, I said yes I would, and I insisted on going and said, well, if you don't take me down, I'll go down anyway. But the thing was that I got an infection. And over that next couple of weeks, I lost about 17 kilos in weight. But I carried on and did the radiation and chemotherapy. It was just the start of the program. But one of the interesting things that struck me as I was going through there, because on the day I was diagnosed, a famous All Black was diagnosed. It was Jock Hobbs. And Jock and I knew each other, and one of the first things that he did is he sent me an email and said, we should talk. And we did. Jock, I don't think, was a very good user of email or a keyboard, because all his messages were short and words. There were never sentences or anything like that. But I can remember one night I'd had one of those nights where, and you guys have noticed better than me, when you're lying awake and you're asking and you're challenging, and will I live, will I die? And there's hope and there's despair and there's all those things. And in the morning I sent him an email and I said to him, what do you do? How do you cope? And he came back to me within a short while, and in typical style, he just gave me words, not sentences. And they were words like acknowledge. And he was telling me to accept the fact that I had. Express. So if you're sad or despairing, hope, whatever, share it. Tell somebody. Work with people. And there were other things that he told me, and they were, to pray, to meditate, get good medical advice. The one thing that he said to me that has stayed with me, and will stay with me because now it's part of what I do, he said, change the things you can. And so many times in our lives, We see stuff, when people bring stuff to our table, bring stuff into a room, and it's about yesterday, and we energize on it, and we waste time, and you cannot change those things that are there. What I can change are the things that are in front of me. And so I tend to, in my life now, I look and I think I'm a much better lesson in objectivity than what I used to be. But I do look at most things on the basis of change the things you can. That's a little bit of what I'm going to look at today, because I am going to talk about diversity, because that's what I was asked to talk about. But I'll do it in the context of my engagement, because it's something that I believe that I can make a difference, and it's something that I think that I can help create some change. But a significant part of my reason for being here today was the impact that the DHB initiative with the schools in your community had on me, and will have on others. You've seen it up on the screen today. I think the strategic approach of building a pipeline of Maori and Pacific health professionals is visionary. I think the willingness of Tangaroa College and James Cook to participate in that program is inspiring. And I think the readiness of the Tyndall Foundation to support the initiative deserves recognition and is something that other funders should learn from. The initiative and your win in the EEO Trust Work and Life Awards is one thing, but the more important outcome is the message that you have sent and the stories your champions will tell on your behalf. The champions are organisations like the EEO Trust, or our members, or those at the awards, or quite simply, people like me. Because the story that I've been telling is about an early intervention and an easy transition for students from one learning environment to another, and then on to a professional career in the health sector. So if I've told the story once, I've told it 100 times, because it was such a delight to see those young students come through and the result that they achieved through our awards. It's a wonderful story, and it's something that you should all be proud of, so congratulations again. As a part of being here today, you also asked me to talk about Auckland as a diverse city. And obviously I've taken some liberty with the subject. You see, when I look at Auckland and see diversity, I see the volcanic cones, I see the pristine harbours of Auckland on both the east and the west coast, and the marine playground that we get to enjoy. I see the rich soils in Franklin as a food bowl for the people of Auckland and the Asian export markets. And I see the wild beaches on the west coast. I see Auckland as an international city and see our sea and our airports that deliver people and product to the regions of Auckland and New Zealand. I see restaurants of local and international fame. And I see shopping and retail centres and the markets in Avondale, Otara, or even Newmarket. And when I think of Auckland and events, the diversity of events, the Rugby World Cup, the major conferences that we host here, the discussions that happen like today at Sky City, TPP, of trade negotiations between New Zealand and any other number of countries wanting to make up the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The V8s, Diwali, Chinese New Year, the Santa Parade, or the activity generated each week with the sporting activity of the young people of Auckland. And when I look at people, I see a cultural melting pot of over 150 ethnicities, the largest Polynesian population anywhere in the world. A population that includes over 20% of Asian peoples that will rise to 30% by 2050. 2021. And this all equals a rich mix of culture, cuisine, religion, and ideas. And when I see communities, I see contrast from Rangiora to Otago, from Franklin to Auckland, and everything in between. These are some of the things that make Auckland diverse. It's different, it's variety, it's diversity. It's what makes Auckland different than anywhere else in New Zealand and anywhere else in the world today. And this diversity are all things that we like to celebrate as being a part of Auckland. We see it as a part of who we are and what we stand for. But many of these attributes of diversity bring challenges that I believe we are having difficulty with. So let me look at diversity from a different perspective and ask how we might be coping with the change. If I have a look at gender diversity and see that 45 of our top 100 companies, including 2 from our top 10 companies, are still without women on their boards. When I look at 22 government departments that have gender pay gaps that exceed the market average, and 9 government departments that have a pay gap exceeding 20%. Or when you look at chief executives in government departments and see that women make up just 24% of the total. Some other standouts. When you take 10 of the largest accounting firms and observe that the total number of women in partnerships is just 15%, and that the pay gap that exists here is around 26%. Or when you look at women representation in the judiciary and see that they make up just 26%, or women in law partnerships at just 19%. And the statistics go on. Ethnicity is another area of diversity worth looking at when you look at Auckland. New Zealand European Pākehā make up 56%, Asian around that 20% mark, and as I've said, 30% by 2021. Pacific, 13%, Maori, 11%. Education then offers an interesting perspective where 84% of those who leave educated to NCEA level 2 are European, Pākehā, and Asian, leaving Maori and Pacifica right at the lower end of the scale. Poverty is another measure of diversity in Auckland, where I see around 1 in 5 children in low-income households and experiencing material hardship. Some estimates suggest that about half of Auckland's 200,000 differently abled people have personal incomes of less than $20,000 per annum. And while poverty affects people of all ethnicities, Maori and Pacifica have hardship rates of 2 to 3 times those of others. Despite this sobering picture of diversity, there are some positives. And to me, your DHB initiative is a celebration on its own. You have piloted this and you face success. But I have to ask, how do we bring it to scale? Who are the champions that we can call on so that we can enable other communities to benefit from the success that you have had in your community? And if it works for health, why can't we adapt it in other sectors and pilot that and then bring it to scale? We need champions, we need storytellers, and we need people who think differently and can action change. I see the work that the Chamber does, the organisation that I lead, with unemployed youth in South Auckland through their program, Cadet Packs. Each year, they accept around 300 unemployed youth. And after their program, they place over 65% into full-time employment. In other programs with migrants, we place hundreds into work each year and assist others with CV writing, job search strategies, and work experience. But again, I ask, if it is successful, and it is, why don't we bring this work to scale and reap the full benefits of the work and the thinking of organisations like yours and mine? I think there are positive signs that Aucklanders are embracing diversity. Diversity is embraced in employment, at the bottom end, but not at the top. Diversity is flourishing in the arts and creative industries with strong representation of Maori and Pacific artists. Diversity is influencing Aucklanders' lifestyles with increasing numbers participating in ethnic and religious festivals, ethnic restaurants, arts and media. In my opinion, we celebrate the diversity that Auckland reflects, and we want it in our brand, but we do not live diversity as a value. An unconscious bias exists in much of our management, and unless there is a change in behaviour, the level of disadvantaged people in our communities will continue to grow, and the statistics tell us who that group will be. There are some initiatives that are changing the behaviours and the outcomes in some communities, and as I've said, these need to be brought to scale. There are some successes that need storytelling and champions so that the story of positive diversity can be told and that change can be delivered. We need a whole of government approach and not the fragmentation of funds and energy and resources that we see in Auckland today. We need more businesses and business leaders and business organisations to accept that it's about business in the community and not a divide of business and the community. We need a cultural change in our families and communities that helps us all understand the choices, the consequences, and the self-responsibility. In my opinion, we do not go far enough in what we do, or fast enough in the pace that we call on change. But what we can do is to celebrate what we've started. Thanks very much for listening.